All right, it is Friday and it is after 5 o'clock, which means I can kick off the almost internet famous weekly TechSpective happy hour. So here we go. Aside from kind of talking about and recapping whatever happened this week to some extent, kind of the point or the purpose of doing a happy hour is the adult beverages. So each week I'm going to feature something. This week we're going to do this Woodchuck Pumpkin Reserve Hard Cider. I'm actually a fan of hard cider in general. I like Woodchuck, and you know what's not to like about pumpkin. Everything's pumpkin. It's the month of October. So, cheers. It's interesting. I mean, it's still hard cider. It's got that pumpkin flavor. It's unique. I think it's the kind of thing that I can do in October because it's pumpkin month. But that I wouldn't necessarily want to drink all the time. I kind of feel the same way about eggnog. It's awesome. I love eggnog, but after a couple quarts of that stuff during the holidays, I'm ready to take a year off. So anyway, this is pretty good. Not too shabby. I actually checked in on Untappd, the app that you check in your beers that you drink and stuff. I'm not a huge beer drinker, but I have an occasional beer. I've actually grown into it some. When I was in the Air Force, when I was stationed in England, all my friends were drinking Guinness, and I, for the life of me, could not even stomach that stuff. I could not understand how anyone could drink Guinness. And at parties and stuff, I would have Bud Light, Miller Light, whatever was the American beer du jour for the party. And I would drink them, but I never loved them. I mean, I wouldn't go out and buy a 6-pack of Budweiser. In recent years, though, I actually acquired more of a taste, and I found that, I'll still drink Budweiser, Coors, Miller, Michelob, whatever, but I actually prefer darker beers, European beers. I'll drink Guinness. I like porters. I like beers that have a good flavor, and not so much just the ice cold Coors type stuff. But at any rate, I'm not prepared for it this week. But one of the other things that I was thinking I would do during the weekly happy hour would be doing some cooking type stuff too. I do most of the cooking here, and I'm not a gourmet, but I make some pretty good stuff. So I thought it would be fun to maybe do that sometimes too. So let's talk a little bit about what went on in technology this week, or what went on in the world, what went on TechSpective. Unless you were under a rock or in a coma or something, you've probably heard that Star Wars released an official trailer on Monday during halftime of the Monday Night Football game. They also released it online. You can watch the trailer on our post on TechSpective, and I have to say, it looks pretty epic. If you haven't seen that trailer yet, I have no idea how you could not have seen that trailer yet. But if you haven't seen that trailer yet, definitely go to TechSpective, watch the trailer. I advise putting it on maximum full screen and cranking the volume or wearing headphones. I mean, to get the full experience. That is going to be awesome. I mean, every trailer I've seen has been phenomenal. It looks like it's going to be awesome. I think Disney is doing a phenomenal marketing job of kind of building momentum and building anticipation and driving that excitement about the movie without really giving too much away. I mean, I know I have some friends who are purists who don't want to see any trailers. They don't want to see anything. They want every second of the movie to be a surprise, and I can respect that. But I do commend Disney for basically, really exciting people about the movie without giving it away. So that was Monday. Some of the things that we talked about on TechSpective this week. I wrote about Surface Book, and I wrote basically about which one you should get. The early reviews all started coming out this week, and it doesn't matter what media site you look at. I have yet to see one that doesn't gush about the Surface Book. I mean, everyone loves this thing. It's the greatest thing to ever happen to laptops, I'm looking forward to getting a chance to get some hands-on experience with one myself. But I started pondering the question of, there are 7 different models ranging from $1,500 to $3,200, and if you're going to spend money on a Surface Book, do you need to spend $3,200? Because that's a lot of money for a laptop. I mean, not that $1,500 is pocket change, but I mean that's a $1,700 difference. And basically, the conclusion I came to is that the $1,700 model, when you pay a little bit more to upgrade from the 128 gig SSD to the 256 gig SSD, that I think that would be sufficient. You've got a Core i5 processor, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and the 256 gig SSD, and that's $1,700. I would personally, I would like to have the 512 gigabytes of storage or the 1 terabyte of storage, but there's no options to customize the configuration. If you want those things, you have to buy to get the 1 terabyte, you have to buy the $3,200 Surface Book. But there's also a full-size SD memory card slot. So basically my strategy, my suggestion is you go with the $1,700 Surface Book with the 256 gig SSD, and you can put another 256 gig SD memory card in there, or a 512 gig SD memory card, and upgrade that storage for less money than it would cost you to buy the model of Surface Book that comes with that level of storage. So that's my 2 cents. And if I'm spending my own money, that's what I'm going for. I mean, the $3,200 one sounds nice, but basically using my strategy, you could basically buy 2 of those. So that was one thing. So another thing that we talked about, I guess just yesterday, was the Microsoft earnings call, and there was a lot of revenue declined and net income declined, and this declined and that declined, and that as someone who isn't really an investor, that never sounds great. I'm like, well, if everything declined, that's not good news. But overall, they beat estimates. Whatever Wall Street was expecting, they did better than that. There were a few bright points, silver linings. One being the cloud. The cloud revenue is up, net income is up. Microsoft seems to be killing it in the cloud. And the other one was Office 365, which is now at 18.2 million subscribers, and going strong. So I've been a fan of Office 365, since Microsoft rolled out Office 365, and I think there's still been a lot of there's still a lot of confusion. I find even in tech media, I find people like to refer to it as cloud-based productivity, and they compare it with Google Apps and stuff. But Office 365, there are some elements that operate in the cloud, and you do get the benefit of like Exchange Online or SharePoint Online, and you get some back-end services that are running in the cloud that are managed by Microsoft. But as far as Office itself, it's just a different way to buy Office. I mean, you're getting the exact same Office that you install on your computer, and it runs on your computer. And I mean, there's no difference. There's no difference between buying Office 2016 or subscribing to Office 365 and installing Office 2016. Either way, you get the same Office. The difference is that if you want to buy Office Professional 2016, it'll cost you $400. And 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when Microsoft upgrades and comes out with a whole new Office, you'll have to spend $400 again. And it will only work on one computer. Whereas if you subscribe to Office 365, you get the same Office 2016. You're only spending, whatever it is, per month or per year. It depends on the plan you get. I mean, it's like $100 per year for Office 365 Home, which includes Office 365 for 5 people, and each of those 5 people can install it on multiple machines. And so if you start adding that up at $400 a pop, it's a significantly better value that you don't have to spend $400 for per machine up front. You're just spending that $100 per year. So the break even ends up being 10 years or more, depending on 10, 20 years, depending on which plan you go with and how much, how many systems you actually need Office on. So bottom line, I recommend Office 365. And apparently a lot of other people agree, which is why Office 365 is doing well. Then to finish out the week, we had the news that TalkTalk, which is a British telephone and broadband company, suffered a data breach. And I'm not that familiar with the previous data breaches, but from what I can see online, it seems this is their 3rd data breach of the year. And that alone should be concerning. Then there's the part where in the official statement, TalkTalk calls this a significant and sustained breach. And that just caught my attention because I thought, how sustained can it possibly be? If you already had breach number 1, you'd think you'd be on high alert and you'd clean up and you'd make sure everything was good. Then breach number 2 happens, and again, you would respond and you would clean up and everything should be good. Now we're on to breach number 3. If it was that sustained, it would seem to me that the breach possibly existed even before breach 1 and 2 and just wasn't caught or something. But the whole thing sort of highlights the issue with data security and protected customer data. This isn't really, it's not really new, which is so it's kind of surprising that we have to talk about it every single data breach. But this idea of blocking, guarding the perimeter and having like, we're safe inside the network, we just need to protect ourselves from the bad guys outside the network. That's not really a thing anymore. There is no perimeter. There is no, protecting yourself from the inside or the outside. At the point of attack, at the point where the data is actually being taken, most of the time, it's being taken by a supposedly authorized user. Now that could be, someone like an Edward Snowden, who literally is an authorized user on the inside, who's doing something he shouldn't be doing, accessing terabytes of data that he technically had authorization to access, but it was still an anomalous behavior. It was a suspicious behavior. If someone was watching, they might say, hey, Why is Edward Snowden downloading terabytes of data? And arguably someone should have been watching and said that. But in the case of, and I'm not sure of the specifics of this TalkTalk breach, but in the case of many of the other recent breaches, Target, Sony, whatever, it seems like the breach is generally being conducted using compromised credentials. So somehow the attackers, whether it's a phishing attack or some other malware, somehow the attackers are getting the username and password of somebody on the inside who is authorized. So from the standpoint of the network, from the standpoint of the company, you're not looking for someone on the outside. You're not looking to block someone from the outside from accessing data. It's ostensibly an authorized person on the inside who's accessing information and stealing data. So that's what you really need to look for. So that's a long way around of saying that there has to be a fundamental shift to just protecting the data and looking for suspicious activity on the inside and giving up the idea that there's a perimeter and that there's an inside and an outside, and operating from the assumption that you're already compromised. Now, how do you detect it, or how do you continue to protect the data on your network if you know for a fact there's a bad guy on the network as well? So my 2 cents. And then I guess two final things. Well, and then there's a lot of other stuff. You can go to TechSpective and read all the other stories. But the only other two things that I'm going to talk about are there was an issue reported by a lot of users with a recent either iOS update or a Facebook update. At any rate, Facebook was eating up the battery on iPhones and iPads. And Facebook looked into it, figured out what the problem was, addressed the problem, and came out with an update. So if you are an iOS user and you have the Facebook app, I suggest you go update, because that issue has been solved. And then finally, go to TechSpective and check out the Netflix trailer for this new series they have coming called Jessica Jones. Now, until today, I hadn't heard of it. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't even aware of what Jessica Jones was. But apparently, it's a Marvel comics series, and I think it was based off a comic called Alias. But the trailer looks awesome, and I like what I'm a fan of Netflix series in general. I like Orange is the New Black. I'm trying to think of the other one that everyone loves that I could never get into with Kevin Spacey. Anyway, I don't know. I'll figure that out. Let me know in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. I also binge watched Daredevil because I like the superhero stuff. I think Netflix did a good job with Daredevil, and I'm really looking forward to Daredevil season 2, but that's not supposed to come until sometime next year. So this Jessica Jones series looks awesome and looks like it'll help fill the void. My son and I just started watching the Flash series as well. So we're getting our superhero fix, in that way. But like I said, I'm not familiar with Alias. I wasn't familiar with Jessica Jones, but after watching the trailer, I know what I'm going to be doing on November 20th. So at any rate, that was the week. Cheers once again. Have a great weekend.